What's up, y'all? This is Franchise Play, aka Brian Mazik, aka the Big Numbers Guy, bringing you the UFC schedule for January. I'd be remiss, of course, if I didn't at least acknowledge what happened at UFC 168. I mean, man, it was terrible. The nasty, horrible leg injury suffered by Anderson the Spider Silva in the second round against Chris Weidman in the rematch for the UFC middleweight title. I got a little bit more coming on that when I do a little bit of a news piece in regards to UFC, probably tomorrow or a little bit later on. But yeah, it was terrible. But he's had surgery and had a rod placed in his leg, so we'll see what happens from there. But yeah, that's pretty much all I'll say about that right now. But let's move to the cards that are coming up. January 4th, you get UFC Fight Night 34. It's actually in Singapore. There's a lot of first-time UFC competitors going to be on this card. Leandro, Issa versus Russell Doane. Dustin, Kimura versus Delos, Reyes. Mairbek, Taisumov versus Hyun Bang. Royston versus Dave Galera. Katsunori, Kikuno versus Quinn, Mulhern. Max Holloway versus Chope. Kang, who I like a lot. Very strong. He lost a real close fight to Chico in his last fight. Shimizu, he's taking on Shimizu. Kiichi, Kunimoto versus Luiz, Dutra. Tatsuya, Kawajiri versus Soriano. And then the main event is Hyun versus Tariq Saffiedine. And that's a welterweight battle. Saffiedine actually fought in the last ever Strikeforce bout. So he's a pretty highly thought of welterweight. So we'll see if he can make a splash in the UFC. It's his first UFC fight. Now that's January the 4th. Moving on to January 15th, UFC Fight Night 35. A bigger card for sure. Starting it out, I mean, it's a pretty nice card. Alptekin Oskalic, I think his name is pronounced, against Luis Smolka. Elias Silverio versus Isaac Vallie-Flagg. John Moraga versus Dustin Ortiz. Vink Bichal versus Garrett Whiteley. Derek Brunson against Yoel Romero. Yoel Romero is a monster. You got to watch him for sure. Justin Edwards takes on Ramsey Nijam. Binal Dariush versus Jason High. Brian Houston versus Trevor Smith. Lorenz Larkin, who's also a striking animal. But we'll see. I don't know if I'm not completely sold on him yet. He's taking on Brad Tavares. TJ Dillashaw against Mike Easton. Cole Miller against Sam Cecilia. And the main event is Luke Rockhold versus Costa Philippou. Now, both of these guys are coming off a loss. Pretty, decisive loss too. Luke Rockhold got his head flown by Vitor Belfort on a spinning wheel kick in his UFC debut. It was, It was crucial. And Philippou was dominated by Francis Carmont in his last fight. So that it's gonna be interesting to see how that breaks down. Last event of January for the UFC is UFC on Fox 10. It's in Chicago, in my hometown. I won't be there though, but yeah, it's here. Alexei Oleinik versus Jared Rosholt. Walter Harris versus Nikita Krylov. Yves Jabouin, I always pronounce his name wrong. I'm not sure if I did it right or not. Taking on Eddie Wineland. Junior Hernandez versus Hugo Viana. Adam Kaliev versus Pascal Kraus. I like Pascal Kraus. He just, I don't know. Seems like there's something a little bit missing there, but I really do like him. Chico Camus versus Yatsen Meza. That's the Facebook Fox Sports 1 prelims. They also got Darren Elkins versus Jeremy the Little Heathen Stevens. Still to this day, the most hilarious nickname you're gonna find, Little Heathen. Donald Cerrone versus Adriano Martins. and Gabriel Gonzaga versus Stipe Miocic. That could be explosive. You know how it is whenever Gabriel Gonzaga fights. You never know what's going to happen. He's explosive. He could tap you out. You never know. The main event in Chicago is Benson Smooth Henderson versus Josh Thompson. This is Ben Henderson's return to the octagon after he lost his title to Anthony Showtime Pettis. The funny thing about this particular fight is Pettis was supposed to be on this card defending against Josh Thompson, but he pulled out because of an injury. He's going to be locked up. He's going to be not locked up. He's going to be on the shelf for a minute. So we'll see when we get an opportunity to see him back in the octagon. But yeah, that'll be it for that though. But the Fox 10 card looks to be pretty solid. Donald Cerrone's always entertaining. Jeremy Stevens as well. Chico Camus definitely. The Ben Henderson Josh Thompson is a big time fight. The winner certainly deserves to take on Pettis, so it's really kind of like a quicker way for Ben Henderson to get right back in the position to challenge for his to try to take his title back from Pettis. I mean, we all know that back when they were both in WEC, Pettis defeated him in the by decision in the same fight where he landed the ridiculous Superman kick off the cage. Then in this fight, I think the win was even more impressive because he didn't, he's known a lot for his spectacular strikes and unpredictable strikes, but Pettis really showed his overall game and showed the submission skills as he made Henderson actually tap out to lose his title. That's a big deal. That's a big deal, as Joe Rogan would say. That's a feather in that young man's cap. So there that is. So it's a pretty decent month. Hopefully we don't see anything else like we saw at UFC 168. Ugh. I mean, that tested the stomach I have for the sport. That's how just bogus it was. I didn't watch any of the replays. I saw it. I saw it when it happened. The tripped out thing about it was I was sitting there. I was watching it with my wife, right? And as soon as it happened, I knew exactly what it was. I didn't have to see it a second time. I knew exactly what had happened, and I immediately just cut the television off. Just cut it off because I didn't want to see it again. Because I've seen it happen to people before, and you guys are going to think I'm crazy, I'm lying, or whatever, but check it out. Something felt like something like that was going to happen to somebody on that particular event. I just felt like that. And it was like I reacted so quickly to it when it happened. It was like, it was clear that it was like something like I wasn't shocked in any way, shape, or form. It was crazy, sick, disgusting, crazy, just out there, right? But that'll do it. But that does it. Be sure to check out the whole schedule in print in the description. Y'all subscribe, follow. Peace.